You know, when it comes to critiquing films, it's usually best to keep your eyes on the overall picture instead of obsessing over minor flaws. But every now and then, a movie comes along that's so profoundly bad, on such an epic scale, that the only way to unpack it is to dive deep into the tiny details. Unless, of course, you're one of those lunatics who makes 5-hour breakdowns about a single movie. And honestly, with something this disastrous, looking at it piece by piece might be the only way to make sense of the chaos. Take one particular scene, barely 3 minutes long, from Rebel Moon Part 2. It's an astonishing blend of over-the-top melodrama, baffling creative decisions, and acting that wouldn't pass in a student short film, all wrapped in a self-serious tone that makes you wonder if the director genuinely believes he's crafting high art. The scene is a flashback to a crucial moment in the backstory of Cora, the film's painfully generic, strong female lead. And believe me, this one segment encapsulates nearly every flaw in Zack Snyder's approach to storytelling. For context, Cora used to be a top-ranking officer in a sprawling galactic empire ruled by a supposedly benevolent monarchy. Because, of course, why wouldn't a hyper-advanced interstellar civilization operate under a medieval-style feudal system? Totally plausible. The scene in question revolves around the ceremonial unveiling of a new superweapon, the Dreadnought. For reasons that defy logic, this grand event is held not on the bridge or in a hangar, but in the ship's boiler room. Yes, really. Nothing says regal space-age celebration like standing next to coal-fired furnaces. And if you're thinking, wait, why coal? You're not alone. This is a warship capable of interstellar travel, yet it's apparently powered by steam engines. Not only is this never explained, it directly contradicts later scenes where the ship's engine room looks like it houses a giant glowing deity, or something equally absurd. And then there's the setup. The royal family walks right into a trap set by their own trusted advisor, Belisarius. Except the execution of the trap makes no sense. The king doesn't seem the least bit suspicious about being led into a boiler room. He even smiles upon entering, as if this was the plan all along. His only moment of hesitation comes when he notices the furnaces aren't lit, because apparently that's the real red flag here. To make things more ridiculous, Belisarius has brought along a full orchestra for the occasion. You know, to keep things classy. And yes, they're all wearing bags over their heads, because supposedly they're not meant to witness what's about to go down. But then, how are they playing their instruments perfectly, and even adjusting their music to match the mood of the room? Clearly, they can see, which completely undermines the whole no witnesses premise. What this reeks of is a filmmaker desperately trying to incorporate something cool-sounding, like diegetic sound, without understanding how or why it works. Diegetic sound, for the uninitiated, is when music or audio exists within the world of the film, heard by both characters and audience alike. It's often used to create emotional connection or realism. A great example would be the Titanic scene, where the ship's band continues to play as chaos unfolds, a moving, tragic moment that feels earned and fitting. But in Rebel Moon, it's just tacked on, unjustified, illogical, confusing. Back to the plot. Belisarius and his fellow conspirators pull out daggers, yes, knives, in a world full of energy weapons to carry out their coup. because apparently someone read about the assassination of Julius Caesar and thought, yeah, let's do that, but in space. Meanwhile, Cora suddenly turns on the royal family, gunning down their bodyguards, who, curiously, were doing nothing while their rulers were slowly encircled by armed men. And then comes what might be the single most hilariously bad line reading in cinematic history. Do it. Kill her. The delivery is so awkward. It feels like a placeholder the director forgot to replace. It's baffling that this made the final cut. Cora kills the glowy magical girl, who's important for reasons the film barely explains. And then, surprise, Belisarius betrays her, planning to pin the entire massacre on her. But again, this plan makes no sense. She used a gun. The king was stabbed. No forensics team in the galaxy would buy that story. And instead of eliminating her on the spot, they just arrest her, without even disarming her. Naturally, she breaks free, kills a couple guards, and escapes, somehow, from a heavily guarded warship. And through it all, the orchestra keeps playing. This scene is a masterclass in bad filmmaking. Nearly every element contradicts itself, or ignores basic logic. Characters behave in ways that make no sense. The plot demands total suspension of disbelief, not just for sci-fi concepts, but for basic human behavior. This is what happens when style is prioritized over substance. When a director is more concerned with making something look cool than telling a coherent story. It's a textbook case of pretension over planning, spectacle over sense. Honestly, you could show this scene in film school as an example of how not to write, shoot, or direct a film. Take care out there, and maybe give this one a pass.